Greetings, I'm Raining Moon and this is Oak Moon Grove. Today I want to share with you what the Gaia Theory is if you've never heard of it before. In this I'm going to kind of take you through a meditation. This is based off of Starhawk's, one of her writings. It's a bit paraphrased and summed up, but it is powerful in describing what the Gaia Theory is and how we can all work together. So many of you may be familiar with that saying, "Let there be light," in the beginning from the Bible. And many other people will also be very familiar with Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest and fighting tooth and nail against each other in order to pass on our genes. And then there is the Gaia Theory. So in the Gaia Theory, it's about that the earth functions like a living organism, a self-regulating organism, self-regulating in temperature and salt levels in the seas. So very much like a body, except that it doesn't reproduce. But this is a process in time of working together. Now I'm just going to share with you a story from back in the beginning of creation, so if you could just picture this in your mind. So in the beginning, the earth was a pretty inhospitable place. It was very hot and steamy, and there were primordial seas where molecules were floating around, and they started to come together and to reproduce. Now eventually they started eating up what food they had until there was pretty much nothing left and things started to die back. And life came up with a solution, and that was to eventually create chlorophyll. Chlorophyll was the birth of all the green things on the planet. So in chlorophyll is what you find in leaves and in the blades of grass and in algae that's floating around in the ocean. The plants began to change the atmosphere of the planet with how they worked, taking in the sunlight and converting it and producing a gas. And this was toxic to some of the bacteria that was on the planet, and many of the bacteria dove into really dark areas, and they became the Anaerobic bacteria. These are some of the bacteria that still live in your guts today. So it's all those stinky type of bacteria. These are some of our most ancient ancestors, actually. And some of them learned to take the gas that was given off by the plants and use it for energy. And they created carbon dioxide, which the plants actually take in. And so there began this dance of all the green things and the breathers on the planet. And air was constantly being cycled back and forth. And this is how creativity and inventiveness in life figures things out. So how can we draw on that wisdom, that experience? How can we combine our efforts, not just for the good of ourselves, but for the good of all? Now, the plants could just sit there to gather their food from the light and the air, but the breathers needed to get around. And so they developed new shapes. Sometimes they would eat each other up, and sometimes, instead of destroying the other cell, they would inhabit it. Instead of a competition, it became a symbiosis, a cooperation. In time, this developed into cells that became our own bodies. They each carried a DNA that could reproduce and change in a new way, recombining with other cells. And this is through sex. This is where sex started. And more variation and more forms developed and reproduced. So this is a bit different from the story of the survival of the fittest. In this story, you can see that the things that survived and were successful were the things that also learned how to cooperate on newer, deeper levels. They linked together. From their cooperation came more variation, and the things that worked from this variation led to growth and to new life. There was a way that the Darwinism theory was taken in the 1940s. An idea came into being that said, you know, with the idea of the survival of the fittest, that the poor should starve because they were unfit to survive. That was kind of like a thought at the time. But imagine if instead of that there had been a social Gaianism, which would say it's all about deep cooperation. How do we create a world of more cooperation, of more collaboration? If faced with a problem, maybe the way out is not to shoot and kill, but to ask who we can help in co-creative ways that will also help us. We have such potential in our life and our connection to Mother Earth. These words to me really bring a sense of hope. There have been times on the planet where things all began to die, and then things started to work together differently, and life began again. This is really inspiring to me, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. The writings that I've taken this from are from The Earth Path by Starhawk. It's a really great read. Starhawk is an eco-activist. I've read her stuff from a very long time ago, and she's very inspiring to me and helped to get me moving to help protect and work together with other people as much as I can. And I think that this is really the key to solving a lot of issues going on the planet. The more people that we have working together on things, the more brain power all stewing together, the more wisdom and experience, the more likely we're able to come up with solutions that will really work out. So I think this is key. Let's work together. I hope you enjoyed this and you found it inspiring. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I put new videos up every Monday. And a lot of my videos are about living more in connection with the earth and mindfulness and simplicity, simple living, plants and animals. So if you like that kind of thing, please follow along. Until next time, I wish you love, serenity, and grace. Namaste.